Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Interrogation Podcast. My name's Alan, and today our special guest is Byron Morrison, who is an expert that helps entrepreneurs master their inner game and also help them maximize their high performance habits. In other words, he helps entrepreneurs maximize their productivity and working potential. Hi Byron, how are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me on today.
No, it's an absolute pleasure having you on today. Now, Byron is like me, he's in the UK, so right now both of us are suffering from this terrible, terrible weather. It's absolutely pouring down, but we're trying our best to make this podcast really entertaining for you. So, Byron, first of all, can you please tell us, what do you actually do in your business? How do you help people?
Yeah, sure. The easiest way to answer is probably to explain who I help and with what. Essentially, I help entrepreneurs who've reached a point in their business where they've hit a brick wall. Even though they know what they should be doing, they're holding back and they're not taking the actions they need to take to create the impact, the income, and the level of success that they want. Where instead of moving forward, they're procrastinating, they're overthinking, they're doubting themselves and being controlled by fear. So essentially, what I do is I come in and I help them get out of their own way. We get to the root cause of why they've got these mental roadblocks in their head, why that voice is sabotaging them and stopping them from reaching their potential. And once we reverse the thoughts and stories in their head, we give them that unstoppable confidence to go after what they really want. Then we optimize different areas of their life, like their habits and their performance and everything else to get them really showing up at their best.
So, for example, would you say that if a person doesn't like posting on Facebook or doesn't like commenting on other people's posts, would you say that's one of their mental roadblocks and that's the sort of thing you help them with?
That could definitely be a part of it. Like, it's understanding that reason why, because it could be as a kind of tangent of that. Let's say someone's afraid to get on video. They're afraid to put content out there because they're worried about whether they're going to get judged, what their family are going to think, what their friends or colleagues or everyone else is going to say. So they've got a fear of putting out their message. So we really need to understand what they're actually worried about, why that roadblock exists, and what they need to break through it. Because until we do, that's going to be an element of their business and their life where they're falling short. But yeah, they're commenting on something could be exactly the same. It could be them being afraid to put their opinions or their thoughts or content because they've got some internal dialogue of fearing judgment or whatever it may be.
I think you hit the nail on the head there when you mentioned about creating videos. Because a lot of clients of mine, they're afraid to create videos, or they think they look very unnatural, or they just hate seeing themselves on camera. So those are like one of the things that you help people overcome.
Yeah, it's about understanding why they aren't doing it. Because with most of the people I work with, they know what they should be doing, but they just can't understand why they can't take the actions that they know they need to take. So that's why it's all about getting them out of their own way. Because essentially they're being the biggest stumbling block in the way of their success. We work out why have they got that problem, what do they need to get overcome it, and then push them towards actually doing it.
So that's the sort of really their mindset, right? Their inner game, as you say.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So what would you call yourself? How do you classify yourself? Like, what, an expert in what?
This is one of those things that I've never really wanted to put a label on it. Like my partner always bugs me because whenever she talks about what I do, she's like, can you please just give me a job title so when people ask what you do, I can say. So on paper, I kind of class myself as a mindset and high performance coach. But I think it kind of, there's so many different realms of that. When you say mindset coach, you think kind of all of this fluffy stuff, whereas that's not really what I would kind of pin. Yeah, it's not really what I would put myself in a box as doing. But I'd say that's probably the easiest kind of description that people can get their head around.
Would you say you're similar to someone like Tony Robbins?
100%. Like on my own personal journey, Tony Robbins had a big kind of influence on what kind of happened in my own transformation. And now as someone working in a similar space, he is a continued inspiration. He's at the top of the game. And A lot of the stuff I do would be similar. Like he does his coaching based around NLP, which is the same as what I'm trained in and I do with my clients, but we do very separate. We kind of do NLP, a lot of other mindset work, some psychology thrown in, and then we look more at high performance as well. So it's kind of taking what he does, but a step in a different direction.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How did you develop your skills? I mean, did you used to help your friends out at school or something, or?
It was one of those things a few years ago when I started this journey. If I just give you a little bit of an overview, uh, a few years ago, I was basically not in a very good place. I was in a corporate job. I had a comfortable job. I was earning good money, but I was very, very unhappy. At the time, I was overweight. I was depressed to the point I didn't want to leave the house. I had severe anxiety. I really didn't feel very good about myself. And it was after my dad's cancer, because he ended up having most of his bowel surgically removed. And he spent 25 days in ICU, mostly on life support and breathing through a tracheostomy. That was the wake-up call that I had to change, that I needed to turn my own life around. So I went on this journey to really lose the weight, get my confidence up. Along the way, I learned everything I could about nutrition, fitness, psychology, changing behaviors, mindset, high performance, and everything else in between. That was what inspired my book, Become a Better You. And from there, I naturally transitioned into becoming a coach and helping other people. So it was never a journey that was planned. Like if you said to me like 7 years ago, this is what I would be doing, I would have laughed at you. I was like, no chance. Like I had no interest in any of this. And that's just the person that I evolved into. And I found this passion. So to answer your question, it was very much a combination of a few years studying, like diving into psychology and NLP and trainings, getting coached and mentored myself, and then just reading a lot of books and working with people to kind of develop the skills.
Wow. So you used to be a, could I say, introvert? Someone who suffers from confidence, who likes to be alone when you're younger?
Yeah, this is one thing that people always get surprised when
That's
I tell
amazing.
them that I'm actually still to this day very introverted. Like I do a lot of camera work and videos, and I've managed to flick a switch and I can get an energy up, or I do workshops and seminars and I can be in the moment. But on the side of that, I'm very introverted. Like I've always had problems like building conversations or getting to know new people. Always one of those people, as an only child as well, keeping to myself. So that's why when people tell me they're an introvert, they can't get on video. I'm like, yes, you can. You're just making an excuse. Like there's a mental roadblock there that's holding it back, and you're blaming it on being an introvert. But actually, no, the reason why you won't do it is you are worried about being judged. You're worried about what someone's going to say. You've got that negative voice. So, and that's why I think I can come in with a level of empathy. I'm like, you know what? A few years ago, I was terrified to get on camera or whatever it is, or put myself out there.
I think this applies especially to entrepreneurs, because when we work in a job, we just follow instructions. But when you're an entrepreneur, you really need to throw yourself out there and sort of gain progress for our businesses. So having said that, there's something very, very I really want to know, and that is, how do you target your audience when you advertise or when you market? For example, if I go to Facebook, I really can't select people who are anxiety, not performing well, scared to be on videos. So how do you select your audience when you do online advertisement?
Well, I used to use Facebook solely, and over the last kind of 6 months, I've transitioned to pretty much just using LinkedIn. And yeah, with LinkedIn, it's quite useful. You can do a lot of kind of targeted searches for business owners and CEOs. So it's just connecting with people in that field. And also the foundation of what I do as well is helping people deal with their emotions. So the stress, the anxiety, the pressure, and the overwhelm that comes along with running a business, which, whether we want to admit it or not, is something that every business owner goes through in one form or another. So I'm quite lucky in that sense. This is a problem that I've never met a business owner who doesn't have some form of anxiety, regardless of how successful they are. I'd say, if anything, in a lot of situations, the more successful someone becomes, the worse it is, because they've got so much pressure and expectations to deliver. And that's when that sabotaging voice tends to really kick in.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, it's putting out the right sort of content, getting the right messaging, and just from there, narrowing it down to people who have been in business for a certain period of time and, yeah, in the right country.
Mm-hmm. So a little bit about LinkedIn. I'm very curious. How do you market on LinkedIn, Byron? Can I give you some tips on that?
I do a lot of content marketing. So I'll use Hootsuite and I'll pretty much spend 20 minutes every morning and I'll schedule my content throughout the day.
Just for the viewers who don't know, Hootsuite is a software and application where it can automate some of your postings, which is what Byron uses to automate some of his postings on LinkedIn. Sorry, yeah. Byron. Yeah, continue.
And with that, I can post anything except for video. Unfortunately, they haven't added the video feature yet. But I'll basically just schedule my content. I'll put something out every 2 hours throughout the day. And I'll do a mix of articles, text posts, client testimonials. And then depending on the day as well, I'll sometimes do some thought leadership posts on various different events, things that kind of trigger thoughts or inspiration. And then obviously I'll post videos as well. I've got kind of a library of videos put together and I'll just put out 2 to 3 of them a day. So it's just regularly getting in people's feeds. Okay. And just, I think with LinkedIn, it's about consistency. There's so many different trains of thoughts where some people say, oh, you should only post it once every few days, but make it really good. Whereas I would rather test, put loads of stuff out there, see what works, what resonates, refine it, and then improve it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've been doing pretty much for the last year and a half. And as it keeps getting out there, you build traction.
Right. So do you use LinkedIn ads?
I have in the past, but not very much, to be honest.
So you're getting your traffic for free now by posting on LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn's amazing for that. We're still in the lucky period where the organic reach is so high that it's possible to do it. But in 12 months, probably won't be as effective. But for the last kind of 2 years, it's been through the roof. So there really hasn't been a need to advertise yet. But then that'll no doubt, like Facebook shifted to pay to play, LinkedIn will probably do the same.
Right. When you say the performance is really, really good on LinkedIn, how many views are we talking about here?
It varies massively. Like some posts I'll get several thousand views. Some posts, like weirdly, you'll put out an article and LinkedIn often doesn't want to push articles out there. So I'll get an article that'll be seen like 10 times in the news feed. But then I'll have a post that I did the other day, got several thousand. So it very much depends on what it is, who engages with it. And that's why I think it's so important to test, because a lot of people spend so many hours on a little piece of content and then it doesn't resonate and they've wasted all their time. Whereas over the last couple of years, I've just gone through this, let's test, see what works, adapt and evolve. And that's why I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to think on your feet. You have to constantly just be putting yourself out there, seeing what resonates, and then build it off from there.
Okay. How long do you spend on LinkedIn a day, would you say?
It varies, but from a content creation point, probably about 30 to 60 minutes. Building connections, probably about 30 to 60. And then I'll block off different chunks throughout the week to respond to messages. That's the thing that takes the most time, is just responding to. Yeah. Okay. So that's one of the tasks. But then that's also from a business building point of view where the biggest impact is created. So that's why I've really narrowed down. I don't really use Facebook anymore. I'll post content on there, but I've pretty much give it no focus, just because I'd rather do one platform really well than do 2 average.
Yes. So that is pretty awesome, because you're almost spending nothing, well, apart from your time, on marketing. You're not paying for ads or anything. That is pretty cool. So, Byron, in the next 2 to 3 years, do you have any plans or any big projects you have in store?
Yeah, the kind of 3-year goal that I've got in place at the moment is I'm going to take on a team of coaches in the next 12 to 36 months to start delivering my programmed for me. So from there, I can take a step back, start focusing on writing more books, start doing more speaking and seminars. That plan's already kind of been kicked into motion in the last month. I've started doing a lot more workshops and just building up a kind of platform and just getting a lot more comfortable with public speaking. So that's the focus for the next 6 months. And then I'll start scaling that, and then working on a second book as well, which I'll get at sometime next year. So it's all little things, but kind of the 3-year goal is to be doing a lot less one-to-one coaching, doing a lot more speaking and a lot more writing.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about your book, the one that you've written already. So what was the name?
It was called Become a Better You. So yeah, basically after the whole thing with my dad, I went and got qualified as a nutritionist and a personal trainer. And I got so frustrated with the whole like dieting and weight loss industry and just how much bad information there was out there and people just trying all these quick fixes and never getting results. And because I spent a good 2 years learning everything I could, diving into all of the science behind it, I essentially wanted to write a book that would give people all of the knowledge and skills to make a healthier and happier life for their family. Mm-hmm. So I essentially condensed everything I learned into a book.
Nice.
So yeah, I was really proud of that. That's still one of my proudest achievements to date, because we launched it and it got into the charts and was above Joe Wicks's for a few weeks. And back when we did that was before all the kind of bestseller book hacks that people are doing, putting it in obscure categories like we did in the actual kind of dieting and health books.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something I was really proud of. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, with that, it's kind of, as I've evolved business-wise, I don't really mention the book much anymore, just because I decided I didn't want to be the kind of weight loss and nutrition guy. Like, it's still a big interest of mine, but I didn't want to kind of be pigeonholed into that. So that's why often I'll just give the book out for free on social media. I'm like, you know what? I'm not trying to make money out of it anymore. If people take it and they read it and it helps them, then amazing. Mm-hmm. And then the next book will be far more focused in what I'm doing now with the kind of mindset and performance aspect.
But nutrition is still a very important part of helping an entrepreneur overcome their performance and anxiety and things like that. Yes.
Yeah. It's often when I work with clients, what we'll do is we'll fix their mindset and their emotional health first. And then from there, we'll look at other parts of their life. Because my entire brand and everything's built around helping entrepreneurs become unstoppable. And the reality is you're never going to feel unstoppable and like you can do anything if you haven't got any energy, if you're barely sleeping, if you don't feel good about yourself, if you're always on edge. So we fix the sabotaging voice and the out of control emotions. And then we look at, okay, what's still standing in your way from showing up at your best? Mm-hmm. So it might be then fixing someone's diet. It might be getting them to exercise more, like optimizing their sleep or looking at their relationships or their work-life balance, whatever it is. Everyone's different. So that's why it's a completely tailored approach.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us a tip, a weight loss tip, which is a myth, right? That everyone believes in, which is wrong, or so it's sort of a tip for the listeners today.
Probably one of the most common ones, and this is something that I did wrong massively in the past, and I always kind of speak to people about, is this whole kind of eating 6 meals a day is going to get you to lose weight or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, like eating small numbers of meals.
Yeah, personal trainers spout this out constantly. I remember when I did my personal training course, they were like, this is what you need to get people to do. It's just like, there's no scientific backing behind that. Something exists called the thermic effect of food, which essentially when you do eat, your metabolism gets spiked, which is great. But they've done research into it. And whether you eat, let's say you eat 2,000 calories, if you eat that in 3 different meals, it gets the same spike to your metabolism as if you eat that across 6 to 8 meals. So eating more meals doesn't actually affect weight loss.
Okay.
And I found personally with me, before I knew this was before I kind of studied nutrition or anything, that's what I was doing because that's all the bodybuilders said to do. So I was eating these small meals and I was starving all of the time. I remember this was when I was still in the corporate world. I'd have my little lunch boxes and my chicken and my vegetables, and I'd eat lunch and I'd be like 3 hours to go until my next meal. And I'd just sit there looking at the clock, just counting down till I could eat again. So that's why I think when it comes to weight loss and nutrition, there is no one size fits all answer. It's about finding out what's best for you. But anything that sounds like a big hack or a secret is probably too good to be true. It's someone trying to sell you on something.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Where can people get that book?
On Amazon, for if you search for Become a Better You, or if you, like I said, if people do just want the ebook version, find me on LinkedIn or Facebook, send me a message and I'll send you a copy.
Okay. All right. Oh, thank you. And do you have one of the questions I really wanted to ask you is, do you yourself have a routine on how you start your workday or how you plan, basically how you work?
Yeah, I find you're never going to perform at your best if you don't have some form of structure. And this is something I talk about a lot in my content, because for most people, if you think of the way that they start their day, the alarm goes off, they hit snooze a few times, they eventually jump out of bed, they go straight into rushing around, trying to sort out the kids, getting ready for work, they starting that never-ending to-do list. If they're lucky, they'll have a bite to eat before they rush out the door, they'll then sit in traffic, they'll do their commute before they get to the office. And
you're talking about 90% of the people here.
And the problem with that is, before you even start your workday, you're already in a heightened state. So you're already stressed out, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed before you've done anything else. And then you go in and all of the other challenges, the setbacks, everything else stacks on top. And this is why people are constantly in this reactive mood or state, because they're responding to the world around them. And that's why with myself and with my clients, what we do is we shift it to a proactive state. Now, everyone's different, but I'll just give you an overview of my personal kind of morning routine. I'll get up about 6:30, 7 o'clock. From there, I'll go downstairs, I'll get a cup of coffee, I'll do some light stretching to wake up. Then I'll sit down and I test some, depending kind of on the structure of my week, if I have seminars or anything else, I'll generally look at my plan the night before so I know what I'm doing. But I'll have a fresh look at that just to know exactly what's happening. It's all structured out into 30-minute blocks throughout the day. From there, I'll then take the dog for a walk. I'll get some fresh air, clear my mind, come back, have breakfast, and then I'll start my workday. So there's nothing stressful in there. It's very much easing into the day at a slow pace and then tackling the day ahead.
Okay. Do you schedule your work though? Do you plan your work the night before, like what to do in 9 o'clock till 11 o'clock, like blocks of time like that?
Yeah, like I said, depending on the week, if I do have things a bit up and down, that's unpredictable with kind of clients and everything else, it doesn't always work like that, which is why I'll look at it fresh in the morning. But what I do like to do is the night before plan my next day, so I know exactly what's happening. For an example, tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I've blocked off to be filming videos because I'm doing new content. And then I've got a client and I've got a few other things on. So I'll know already what's going to be happening. And I find with a lot of people, myself included, I break everything down into 30-minute chunks. So I'll set an alarm on the phone and I'll say, for the next half an hour, I'm responding to messages, or I'm doing email, or I'm writing this blog. Nothing else goes on. Because if you're constantly trying to get yourself to write, let's say you want to write an article, but you're also going on social media, you're also responding to emails as they come in, you're taking phone calls, whatever it is, you're not focused. Yeah. And it takes so much longer, your energy gets depleted. So instead, it's focus on one thing at a time, get it done, move on.
Okay. Byron, can you give us an example of how you helped a particular client, a sort of story of how you helped them overcome some obstacles or anxiety? Yeah, you just share a story with us.
A perfect example is there was a guy I was working with a few months ago who had reached a point in his business where he had stopped moving forward. When he came to me, he'd had several bad months. He'd faced all of these challenges and setbacks, and he completely lost his confidence. He was doubting himself, and he got so anxious that he stopped doing the things that he knew that he needed to do, because his business had been built from going to networking events, from putting himself out there and meeting new people. But instead, he was sitting in his office. He'd started doing small tasks like fixing up websites and doing little things that gave him no fulfillment, but they were just comfortable, and he was playing small. And he knew there was so much more impact that he could be creating, but he was just completely stuck. And when he came to me, we really needed to get to the root cause of why he was feeling anxious, why he was afraid to put himself out there and kind of go after what he wanted. And what we really found was it was a fear of judgment. Because of all of the challenges and setbacks, he was comparing himself to everyone else. He didn't feel like he was successful, even though he was. And he was afraid that what other people were going to say. So that's why he'd stopped going to networking events, because he had this fear, which seemed ridiculous. But for him, it was very real. It was a story in his head. Like from the outside world, it looked like he had it all figured out, but he was fighting this daily battle. So we had to get him out of his own way, remove the mental roadblocks, and push him to face what needed to be done. We went through that. He pushed himself. He went back to networking events. The first one went so well that he got invited back the next week to be the keynote speaker. He'll end up adding £36,000 to his bottom line within 6 weeks, doubled his business prices. And with him, got the confidence to actually take his business in a different direction. Rather than doing stuff that he found unfulfilling, he wanted to step up and start doing high-end business strategy, working with business owners on their marketing and direction and everything else. So he overcame all of that doubt, and now he's got a thriving business. He feels great about what he's doing. He's doing work that he loves, and he's actually happy with himself. So again, it goes down to often when I speak to people, they know what they should be doing, but they're in their own way. And that's where I come in to help them get out their own way.
Right. Yeah. So it's a bit like professional athletes. They have even have mindset coaches to help them get their mind like, yes, I can do this, and that I'm better than what I am. Things like that, sort of push themselves.
100%. If you look at any top athlete, CEO, executive, celebrity, they've all got coaches.
Yes.
Because they recognize that they can't do it on their own. And sometimes you need someone else who isn't in your tunnel vision space of what's going on to bring out the best in you, to look for where you're falling short, to help you overcome challenges, or even just to be a sounding board, to be like, you know what, this is what I'm thinking, and break down the ideas and work out the best path of action.
Yeah, 100%,
so a lot of people,
100%. Yeah.
And that's why I love working with business owners, because a lot of people think, getting a coach is only for people who are really struggling or who are in a negative place. But actually, the people who can benefit as well are those who are already doing well, but they want to do amazing. They really want to push themselves to reach that next level.
Mm-hmm. Great. Last question, Byron. Where can people go to find out more about you and your services?
The easiest place is byronmorrison.co.uk, or search for me on LinkedIn or Facebook, Byron Morrison. And yeah, like we said at the start, if anyone is interested in finding out more, they can book in a free session with me where I'll sit down with them, work out where they're at, what they're struggling with, the changes they want to make. And together we'll put together a success blueprint so they can work out the exact steps to get them from where they are to where they want to be.
Okay.
And they can book that either by messaging me or on my website.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay, guys. And also the description will also be under the video or on the podcast. Byron, thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure having you on today's podcast. You've shared some really great information here.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot, Byron. Talk to you later, mate.
Thanks.